What was your reaction from this morning's Journal de Montréal?
I was shocked. Did not expect something like this to be put in the front page. Um, very disappointed. I think many of us in the South Asian community, whether we're Indian, Pakistani, Bangladeshi, or Sri Lankan, are really, really appalled by the headline and the sensationalism that was brought forth by the Journal de Montréal. It seems like they're constantly trying to divide the populace rather than unite them. And I feel that there are fractures that are coming about because of all of these sensationalist headlines and the way they try to race bait things. It's really disappointing.
You are from the South Asian community, right? You're living in Montreal. We saw what happened when the virus first emerged from China, and then it became sort of a Chinese virus, as some people labeled it. And now with different variants, they're getting labeled based on the place of origin. What kind of harm is that doing to the different communities and now to the South Asian?
Well, I think it drives fear, it drives ignorance to a higher level, right? It fuels hatred and racism. We saw with how anti-Asian racism grew at a high level here in Quebec and elsewhere throughout North America and Europe, right? We had innocent people being attacked on the street, and I'm afraid that if sensationalist headlines like this from the Journal de Montréal continue, we'll see attacks rise here in Quebec as well against people of the South Asian community. And I'm afraid for that. I'm afraid for people being attacked, just because of the color of their skin or where they're from. That's not the Quebec I know, and that's not the Montreal I grew up in.
Does that make you afraid for yourself? I mean, you are up among the racialized Montreal community, right? Visible, people can see that, right? And some people who wear religious symbols are probably even at a greater risk. So, do you fear for your own safety after making that statement?
Um, Myself, no. I'm able to take care of myself. I fear for people who are unable to protect themselves. The elderly communities here in Montreal and elsewhere in Quebec, people who wear signs, like you said, religious symbols, and are unable to, really protect themselves against violent acts. I'm afraid for them. I'm afraid for women who might be walking down the street and might be targeted because of their skin color or their ethnicity. These are the people that I'm afraid of, the more vulnerable communities of our city and our province.
Is the reaction from different politicians enough? I don't know what you've seen so far, but Legault came out today saying, "Hey, we have to be careful. We cannot stigmatize different communities." And now it's been a ripple effect among Quebec politicians. What do you think about that?
I think I'm happy that Francois Legault, our premier, came out saying a statement and denouncing articles like this and sensationalist journalism that's occurring. But I also would like to say that I would wish that the government of Quebec would be more proactive against, hateful or insightful comments being placed in the media as well as on social media. I think there's a responsibility by our government to protect its minority citizens and to ensure their safety and their ability to be prosperous here. We've all come here, my parents and other people's parents, whether no matter what ethnicity or what color, they come here because they want a better life. They want to be able to live in peace and harmony. They escaped places where there was persecution or there was violence against certain communities. And to come here and now face that same extremism and that same hateful rhetoric or demeaning comments is not what they're looking for, not what we're looking for. We just want a place in our society here in Quebec where we could grow together as communities and be able to be prosperous and to grow, in a free state. I think that's really essential, and I hope people in Quebec realize that immigrants and people from all over the world come to Quebec because they see an enlightened community and society, and they want to be a part of that. They want to grow with it. And division and hateful comments and crimes against people of different ethnicities, it's the wrong way to go about it.
My question to you then falls, you've been working in a COVID ward for the last year. You're on the front lines working. Is this article and then everything else that surrounds it, the underlying discrimination that is in Quebec society, um, and the way that people are labeling the variants based on the specific locations, is this a dangerous, slippery slope we're headed on?
Yeah, I don't really get why we keep labeling variants according to where they come from, because that's not how it really works. Mutations occur anywhere and everywhere. But the one thing I would say is that I really didn't hear any prejudice or discrimination against the UK variant, right? I didn't hear anything really against people from Brazil, like any racial stigma or discrimination. I just feel like with everything that's happening right now with the Indian variant, and then AstraZeneca also, that it came from India, it caused this whole distress, right? And I understand there were like some adverse effects that occurred, but I feel like there's a lot of linkage with race and ethnocentrism, and the superiority complex that exists in Western culture, that we tend to label people of different color as being you know inferior, and I think that's something that's contributing to it. So like for the UK variants and the Brazilian variants, you didn't really hear much, right? You didn't hear much labeling or racism. But with the Indian variant coming out, the first headline we see in the Journal de Montréal, and Quebec's biggest newspaper, is something discriminatory and racist that I share with many of my friends, no matter what race or ethnicity, whether they be Quebecois or non-Quebecois, and all of them are upset because they're like, "This is not the Montreal or the Quebec we know or we've grown up in."